Nikon D5200 menu settings. This is the fourth video in my Nikon D5200 menu settings series, the third installment of the shooting menu, so don't go away. Hi there, I'm Barry Callister of Barry Callister Photography, founder and creator of Photographer's Freedom, giving you the time, gear and skills to be the best photographer you can be. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for watching this video today. My channel is all about photography tutorials, Lightroom and Photoshop tutorials, photography gear reviews and other nature photography related things. So if that's something you're into, hit subscribe and ding that notification bell. This is going to be a fairly long video because this part of the shooting menu has a lot of settings. So let's get into the content. In the previous video that's linked up top, we finished with long exposure NR. The next item on the list here is high ISO NR. This will apply in-camera noise reduction to pictures taken at high ISOs. You have the choice in here of high, normal, low or off. It will, when it's set to off here, it will still apply noise reduction, but only to shots taken at 800 ISO or above. And the amount of noise reduction that is applied when it's off is a little bit less than the low setting. So I generally just leave that at normal. Next we have ISO sensitivity settings. This is where you can control the level of the ISO sensitivity. So if you click across into this menu, you can see up the top here we have ISO sensitivity values, and there's a little arrow there, so we can click across one more with our multi-selector. And we can choose anything here from auto, which is grayed out because we have to set that in the previous screen, all the way through from 100 down to high 2, which is equivalent to 25,600 ISO. So you just select the value in there and click OK to choose the one that you want. And you can see 500 has the rectangle around it, so that means that it is the one that we currently have selected. So we'll just click OK on that and leave it there. The next option is the reason that auto was grayed out in the previous menu. This is our auto ISO sensitivity control. So clicking across reveals the option of on or off. With this turned on, the camera will choose your ISO for you. You can see below here we have maximum sensitivity and minimum shutter speed. So if with it turned on, we can set both of these. Maximum sensitivity is obviously the max value that you want the camera to choose for your ISO. So this is the limit that you set, and the camera will not choose an ISO value above this. Minimum shutter speed is basically the level at which the auto ISO sensitivity will kick in. Now this works differently depending on what mode you're shooting in. So if you are in program or aperture priority, the sensitivity will only be adjusted if the photo would be underexposed at the value you set within here. In shutter priority or manual mode, the sensitivity will be adjusted for the best exposure at the shutter speed that you select. So you can set your minimum shutter speed in there, and you've got a whole lot of values to choose from. And again, like the other ones, you just click whatever you like, and the one that you've already got selected will have the rectangle around it there. So we'll just leave that at 1000 there for now. Below ISO sensitivity settings, we have the release mode. This is where you set the shutter release modes. So in here you can see you have single frame, continuous L, continuous H, self timer, delayed, remote, quick response remote, or quiet shutter release. You can also set these by pressing the shutter mode release button on the top of the camera up here, and you can see you've got all the same options in there. There's your single frame and so on and so on. Go back to the menu. The duration of the self timer in here can be set in the custom setting menu under timers AE lock. I'll just show you that quickly. So we go the custom setting menu down to timers AE lock, and you will have self timer in there. So you can set it for 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 or 20. So that's why that looks the way it does in here. I've got it set for 5 seconds at the moment. Now I've done another video about the self timer, which you can view by clicking the link up here. So just running through these options quickly, you have single frame, which means that the camera will take one photo only when you press the shutter button. Then you have continuous low, where the camera will take 3 frames per second. So you press the shutter button once and it takes multiple frames. And then we have continuous high, where you press the shutter button once and the camera will take 5 frames per second. Then we have self timer. Delayed remote is where you have a little remote control that will release the shutter button. That's with a 2-second delay, so you press the remote, the shutter will fire after 2 seconds. Then you have quick response remote, where the shutter will fire straight away when you press the remote. And then there's quiet shutter release, which to me is pointless because it doesn't sound any quieter to me than it normally does without that on, so I've never used that. The next setting is an interesting one. This is multiple exposure. This allows you to combine 2 or 3 shots in a single photograph. The benefit to this is that you get richer colors in your image without having to crank up the saturation in Photoshop or Lightroom later on. You may even get a bit of extra sharpness in the photo too. You can also use this to create some unique shots. Multiple exposure is the digital version of the old film days, when you could rewind the film and re-expose over the previous image. So if you've ever wanted to fake a ghost photo, for example, this is how you do it. So if we go in here and we turn this on by clicking the OK button, you can then choose between 2 or 3 shots to be combined together. And once it's turned on, if we go to the information screen here, you'll see these 2 rectangles up here. That indicates to us that we have multiple exposure turned on. So now you can choose here your number of shots between 2 or 3. Click OK to select the one that you want. Down the bottom is auto gain. This is exposure compensation for the images. So the camera will automatically adjust the exposures of each image and try to match them and avoid overexposure. Turn this off if you want to control the exposures yourself. Now, a couple of things to note about multiple exposure mode is that it will turn off after you've taken 2 or 3 images. So you'll have to go back into the menu and turn it back on. I'll just demonstrate this. I think I've got no, I've got the lens cap on. We'll take that off, that will help. So if I just choose, so now you can see that I've taken a photo, it's flashing. That means that multiple exposure is in effect. So we can take another shot and then it will combine those 2 photos. They won't look very good because it's just my black backdrop. But now if I go back into the menu, and you'll see multiple exposure is now off. So it's just a one-time thing. You have to turn it on and off every time you use it. It will also not work when live view is active. So if you're in the live view screen, you cannot use multiple exposure. So you need to turn that back and use your viewfinder. If you have the camera in either of the continuous shooting modes, so if you have it in continuous L or continuous H, it will take all the exposures in a single burst. But if you have it in single frame, you have to press the shutter for every shot that you want to take. And in self timer mode, the camera will take the shots automatically. The next option is interval timer shooting. Here you can program the camera to take photos at set intervals. This can be used to create a time-lapse sequence. You can import the photos into video editing software later and create your time-lapse using the images as frames in your video. So in here, you can, up the top here, you see you've got 2 arrows at either side. This means we can scroll across and you've got multiple options up there. There's multiple pages within this part of the menu. So here you can turn it on or off. Don't turn it on until you have set the timer settings in the other pages, however, because it will start the timer and you won't be able to set anything else. Once it's started, to turn it off, you have to actually turn the camera off or rotate the mode dial up the top here to a different setting. Then you can, so across here, we can choose a start time. So we can choose it to start now, or we can set a start time ourselves. In order to do that, your clock within the camera has to be set properly. So you can see mine says it's 10:48 AM. If your camera's not set properly, then the start time won't work. So make sure that that's done. And if I just click on start time here, we can then go across and you can choose your start time. So this is your hours and your minutes. So if I wanted to set it to start for 10:50 say, we go in there and we choose 10:50, and then you go across again. This is the interval at which the camera will take the photos, and it's got hours, minutes and seconds. So at the moment I've got it set to take one shot every 5 seconds, and you just scroll up and down on those there. And then the last page is the number of times you want it to take a photo. So I've set it for 36 here, but you can choose whatever you want up in the hundreds. So you can choose up to 999 photos if you like. Now, when you're using this, you need to make sure that your battery is fully charged, because your camera will be sitting there taking photos for quite a while. So you need to be a very patient person to use this. So, and also make sure that you have it on your camera on a tripod when you use that too, because obviously you don't want any movement in the camera when it's sitting there taking all of your shots. And the final option in the shooting menu is movie settings. This is where you set the options for recording video with your D5200. So we go across, and in here we have frame size and frame rate, movie quality, microphone, and manual movie settings. The frame size and frame rate will be different depending on what you've selected in video mode inside the setup menu. So we'll go back to the setup menu and go down to video mode and across. So you can see I have it set for PAL. If you can choose PAL or NTSC depending on where you are in the world. This only really applies if you are putting your footage onto DVD, or if you want to stop the flickering of lights, fluorescent lights and stuff in your footage. So I'm in Australia, so I choose PAL mode in there. So these are the options that show up within frame size and frame rate. Now, I've done a video a while back on how to record video with the D5200. If you want to view that, click the link up top there, or check the video description later. The link is in there also. Now, movie quality can be set to high or normal. This is the megabits per second that the footage will be recorded at. So high quality is recorded at 24 megabits per second for 1920 by 1080 and 1280 by 720 footage, and 8 megabits per second for 640 by 424. Normal is 12 megabits per second for 1920 by 1080 and 1280 by 720, and 5 megabits per second for 640 by 424. I just leave that set to high. The next option is your microphone settings. So if we go across in here, you can see we have auto sensitivity. This is where, and you can see we have the level meter down here. Auto sensitivity is where the camera will choose the sensitivity by itself, or you can set it in here with your manual sensitivity and you can choose what you want. And if I do this while I'm talking, you can see this level meter will be getting louder and louder and louder, even though I'm talking at the same level. And you don't want it to hit the red. You want to keep it somewhere in just around about 12, minus 12 dB there is an optimal thing, or at least between 12 and 0. So if I go back out of that option, next we have the option of turning the microphone off. So if you click OK on that or press across with your multi-selector switch, you can see here that you'll have the microphone symbol with a line through it. That means that the camera microphone is off. If you go back up here and I set the sensitivity, say to 11, we go back, you can see now the microphone is on and it's set to 11. So it's actually on by default. So if you want to turn it off, you have to click microphone off. The internal microphone on the D5200 is not great, so I'd suggest you use an external microphone if you have one. Next is your manual movie settings. And this allows you to make adjustments to shutter speed and ISO when the camera is in manual mode. So I'll just go back to the information screen, make sure I'm in manual mode there. Now when you have this switched on, So we'll tell in there, we'll turn it on, click OK. If I go back to the information screen, you can see I can change my shutter speed. Of course, you have to be in live view to record video. So you can see I can change my shutter speed in here, and I can also change the ISO. But I cannot change the aperture. You'll see the aperture won't change for me. So if you want to be able to change the aperture, you have to either click out of live view and then change it, and then you can go back in and you'll see it's changed to the value that I chose. Or you have to go back in here and turn your manual movie settings off. That is the shooting menu done and dusted. Nikon D5200 menu settings will be back soon, but look out for a 5 landscape photography tips video coming next week. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so by clicking the subscribe button and dinging that notification bell. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, share it with whoever you can, and leave a comment if you're feeling chatty. Until next time, I'm Barry Callister of Barry Callister Photography. Get out there, take some wicked shots, and I'll see you soon.